So since this is a note-taking device primarily, and of course a very functional reader, but mainly it's intended for taking notes, let's cover the notebook functionality first. You access your notes by sliding down on the side and taking the note option. This is where your notebooks will be. On the top we have the same thing as we've talked before, and the plus icon is there to add a notebook. Now what you have to keep in mind is when I talked about the file structure, when you are in the note mode, you are effectively in the notes folder and you can always see where you're at. So Supernote, note. So this means that everything that you create in here is going to be reflected in the note folder. So this is exactly the same thing. So basically these are just shortcuts to certain areas of the device itself. And this is important to actually remember that the plus sign creates a notebook where you currently are. So if you are in the note folder, it will create it in the note folder. However, if you are in the documents and you read in some documents and then you hit the plus sign, it will automatically create a new notebook and take you to it. However, when I exit the notebook, you will see that the notebook has been created in the document folder. So just don't be confused, where did you create it and what did I do with it and all that kind of stuff. Just be aware that it is convenient, but it is something that you have to be mindful of so that you know where your notes are. Now we are in the notebook, and if I hit the plus sign, I will automatically be taken into a notebook. So it creates a notebook, doesn't ask me anything, and just auto names it by using some date and time type of nomenclature for the file naming, and takes you to it with the lines ready and everything ready to kind of start taking a note. So it takes just one gesture to instantly create a new notebook and be taken to it so that you can start writing. Again, that tweaking of the user experience and the focus of the device, that it's a note-taking device, very, very nice to see. Now, of course, you can adjust all of these things, and there's plenty of options in a notebook that you can take. And the user interface has been changed somewhat compared to what we had on the Supernote A6. So the first thing that you'll notice is that we have these, let's say, quick toolbar that's on the top here, or a full toolbar which is then on the side here. Now in the quick toolbar you can have your pen, current pen, and you can adjust the color and the size of the current pen, but you can't change the pen type. Choose your eraser, and you can undo and redo. So it's just a quick access type of a toolbar. So the first pen that we have is not pressure insensitive pen, so it doesn't react to pressure sensitivity, and it has these thicknesses from 0.1, 3, 5, 6, and 8, 0.8 millimeters. And I actually like that they are using the millimeter value, because I think it's gonna make the transition from a traditional pen size type that somebody's used to this kind of device much easier. And a pen, as I said, it's not pressure sensitive. It doesn't matter what I actually do. It's not tilt sensitive. However, it is very tidy and precise. And in combination with this pen, it's really nice to actually use, especially for writing. It just feels very good. The second pen that we have in our arsenal is a pressure sensitive pen. It's like more like an inky type of a thing, but not exactly, but kind of like there. So you have 3 types of thicknesses to choose from, 0.5, 7, or 1 millimeter. And in combination with the pressure sensitivity, which is very nice on the Lamy pen, you can get, even when I'm set on maximum thickness, with the light touch, I can get very nice, fine, precise lines, and then as I gradually increase the pressure, so does the thickness of the line. And I think that this has the best calibrated pressure sensitivity of all of the devices that I've seen so far. This is the most precise one. It has the biggest range, better than the Remarkable even, because you have this ability to go to super thin lines all in one pen. But this can be a very nice looking brush. And then finally we have the marker, which doesn't have size or anything like that, so you can just draw however it is that you may want. One thing that I really like about the calibration of the screen is the blacks, and the black color on a Supernote is really good, and there's like this very nice contrast with the whiteness of the device and the white of the screen, and the black is just very intense. So maybe that has to do with that default calibration of contrast that I talked about, but the end result is that when you're writing, the contrast is strong enough and it gives you this crispness, and it's extremely noticeable with the marker itself. When I write it, it's almost like I'm soaking it up with the black ink. So something that I really like. Next we have the erasers, and the eraser is basically the brush first, so you can use it as a brush, and if that's your default choosing, then you can choose the brush size, and then it works normally as you kind of would expect. So I can just kind of erase a little bit here, or I can erase a little bit more here. However, be aware that the button press actually goes into the area eraser or the stroke eraser itself. So the eraser brush is very good, and again very fine, and it's actually pressure sensitive, which is something that's very interesting. So you can get a nice effect by using this kind of thing. Then we have the area eraser, which is basically you have to kind of select the area, and then it goes like this. However, this is really cool to know that the button press here is also functioning like that. So I can, if I press the button on the Lamy pen, it will function in the exact same way. And one more thing to know is that the area eraser thing also works as a line. You don't have to it's like a stroke eraser. So if I just go like this, it will delete the strokes that were encompassed with the line itself, right? So, and that works exactly the same if I'm in this mode or in that mode, it just doesn't matter. That's how the area eraser works. And then finally you have the erase layer, current layer, and then you can just erase the whole thing. Underneath the eraser, we have the choice of colors for the brushes, and the colors are available on all three of the brushes, right? And they remember the setting per brush. So it's not an overall setting, it's a per brush setting, which is kind of cool. Then you also have undo and redo underneath it, and we have the lasso tool. So if I select the lasso tool, now I'm in it, and then I can just simply draw the selection around. It will select it, and now I have the operations. So first of all, I can just move it around. And again, you can see that it's very snappy, super snappy and super responsive and very precise. Then you have the transformation matrix, which is basically you can uniformly scale it only. So that's something that's a little bit of a shame. There is no option to transform it non-uniformly, and I don't think that you can flip it around. That's not something that I've noticed that you can do. There's no negative transform for mirroring, and of course in the rotate example you can just rotate it. But the most important thing is that refresh speed. It's really handy and super fast to actually deal with. Those are the move and transform functions. However, these icons here are very important and super functional. The first one is copy to clipboard, and notice what happens when I press this one. The icon here will change, and it's changed to indicate that, hey, I, as a lasso selection tool, I have something in my clipboard. Whenever you see this icon, and wherever you may be, you can go to another page if you want to, and then I tap right here, it will simply paste the selection, and it can paste it as many times as you want. Now, how do you get out of it? Well, you just simply tap it again. It will say clear the clipboard or copyboard, and then you clear it and it's back to normal, right? So let's clear this out. We don't need it, and go back to our example on the previous page. So that's the first option that you get. That's how you copy paste. Now, the second option is basically a shortcut, because you can copy to a new page directly. So I can just go here and then tap, and that's it. So it functions very similarly, but you know, it just kind of is a bit of a shortcut here if you want to immediately jump to the next page. So very kind of handy thing to have. Then of course you have the cut option, and it's important to actually keep in mind that, again, even if when you use the cut option, it's going to delete it, but also keep it in the memory so that you can go back to a page where you want and again paste it that way. Incidentally, if you just want to delete it, you just cut it and clear the copyboard, and that's that. And then we have something different. So now here I'm gonna write something called my title, right? And let's say that I do the selection set and I select this. Then the next option is basically create it as a title. And what does that do? Well, that basically locks it and you can't do anything anymore with this one. This is kind of, you can either clear it or that's it. Now on the second page, I'm gonna add, my second title, right? And I'm going to select that as well and make it a title, right? And I'm just gonna say that's a title as well. And then let's say on the third page or whatever, on the fourth page. And again, the same thing, you just make it as a title, right? So the whole point of having these titles is that you can search easily through your notebooks and basically you can kind of create chapters, if you will, of your notebook as it expands. So when you go into these three menus, which is, we're going to get into these additional menus. So this is when you have additional options. But one of the first options that you can see is title. And when I tap on it, here they are. And then you can just simply tap on the button and it goes directly into there. So this is incredibly handy how it's been designed. And of course you can clear titles by deleting them. So I can just delete these things as titles. And if I delete them, it's not going to delete the whole thing. It's simply going to release the notes that you made. They're no longer treated as a title. So you still have your content intact. It's just no longer treated as a title. Now, when you have titles in your notebook, currently there are some limitations and I'm not entirely sure which they are. I think it's about inserting pages and reorganizing the page order. I think it's not happy about those things. So if I go now to the overview, and this is a title and this is a title, and if I wanted to simply insert a page, let's insert next page, I should get, yes, no, it actually works. So I can insert a page and the titles still work. Okay, but can I move the page? So let's go to move, select move page. Let's move to, let's just move this one, the first one, move to, here, and then after the page, confirm. It moved it. Okay, so, and the title still works. Maybe that's something that's been updated with this update or the previous update. Initially, when I tested this feature, I had some of these limitations regarding reorganizing pages, but apparently now it works. So, and it seems to be working. Yeah, it definitely works. So seems to be that you no longer have these limitations with the titles, which makes them extremely useful. So the whole point for me of this is just imagine you're doing note-taking and all that kind of stuff, and then you can just simply add a title or a chapter to a part of the notebook and you make it like this. An exceptionally good feature, like really, really good. And then finally, the last option that we have with the lasso tool is the translate to text. So you can convert something to a text. And it's, it is not the best. So it says this is except-433. So, and this is my example for the lasso tool. So let's try with this kind of thing. Let's see if it's more successful with block letters. This is tidy extents. And then let's try this one here. This is tiny oxyump. So I'm writing as tidy as I can, and it simply is not able to, I wasn't able to get a correct text recognition in any of the examples. Does it work offline? I haven't tried. Let's try. So let's see if I now just do this and we do convert to text. Okay, so that's a positive thing, is that this is an offline type of a functionality, which is excellent. However, the bad side is that it doesn't really recognize things that well. I was not able to get it to recognize a single sentence, let alone a whole page. So as a functionality, yeah, it is there, but the actual usability of the text recognition is not there yet. So considerable more improvement is required for this. But the way it works, I think, is they're definitely on the right track. And then finally, we now have the addition of layers, which is awesome. The organization of layers is as such. The background layer is your template, right? And then you can just click on plus button to add more layers. However, you should keep in mind that the main layer is the only one that can contain the title that we talked about. So we have the template, which is the background layer, then we have the main layer, and then we can add up to 1, 2, 3 more layers. So in total, it handles 5, but it's kind of dealing with them in a different way. So you have 4 layers plus the template itself, and you can reorganize the layers themselves, you can hide them, you can do all of these kinds of things. You can't rename them, so we can't rename layers, which is something that I wish that we maybe can. And what I do like particularly is that the icon itself here is actually changing to show you how many layers you have and exactly on which layer you are. And soon as you actually tap on the background layer, you are taken to the template section. And in the template section, you can choose from all of these layers, and there's like 2 pages of them that you can choose from. So we have the calendar, we have the sheet format, reading notes, the musical notes themselves, weekly calendar, task list, meeting notes, grids, lines, different lines, and all sorts of things. So quite a lot of them, which is really cool. And then you can also, they are categorized, so you can just go through all of that kind of stuff. And in the customization, it's going to be your own templates that you place in the My Styles folder that we've shown before. So if you go to Files, and I currently don't have any, so it's kind of empty, but this is where you place your custom templates, and once you place them there, they will show in the customization category of the template itself. So that's the toolbar. Now let's return to the overall notebook functionality and what you can do. So once I actually kind of collapse the main toolbar to something smaller, the next thing that we have are these 3 dots, and that's our options. And in the options we have, here is the name of your notebook, so you can just press on the number here, and then you can delete it normally. Now the cool thing here is that the keyboard has been improved quite dramatically, so it's very responsive and very precise, and also it does the auto capitalization, which it didn't do before. So I can just go, this is my, oops, I went to MT, my, and then go again N, and then it automatically goes down, which is the way it should be. Notebook, right? So I've named my notebook, press enter, that's done. And then you have the title, as we've discussed before. Then you have the page overview, which we also showed, so you can kind of see where the pages are and what they are, what you can do. And you can also do a long press on the page to be able to insert a page, or insert previous or next page, or delete the pages. So you can't move the pages from this selection. The move page is actually a separate function down here. Then you can export the notebook, and the notebook can be exported as a series of PNGs or PDFs. And you have the option of QR code sharing or selecting individual pages which you want to be kind of collated into a PDF that's exported. Then we have manually option to change the template. You can insert previous page, next page from the page where you're at. You can delete the current page, you can copy the current page and paste it either in the same notebook or in another notebook. And then you can also move the current page and add quick access. So this is what I was talking about. You can just quick access is added, and when I go slide down here, it's not only just that the notebook is added, but it's also the page itself is added. So it's a very, very handy way to get back to where you were, and it's a super awesome quick access if you wanted to jump between document and a notebook or two different notebooks at a specific location. Really, really functional. And of course, if you no longer want it, you can just simply cancel quick access, and yeah, then it works. Next to it, we have the full screen option, and the full screen option simply hides everything and lets you focus completely on the writing itself. Now, you don't have any tools here, so you just need to kind of be mindful of that, but it's very, very quick, and I think that it just works properly when you get used to it. It's just really, really cool, especially when used with a pen that has an eraser. It's just an awesome note-taking type of experience with a small notebook. It just properly works. And then of course you can manually navigate the pages here, or go to the jump directly to a specific page that you want and close the notebook to return to the notebook menu itself. This icon here is basically enable disable touch. So if you find yourself that you're accidentally somehow swiping the pages, I haven't found that to be the case, but if you do, then you have the option of disabling the touch recognition completely. So this is how it works normally, and if you turn it off, then it no longer works, but you can still swipe through pages by using these icons here. So for me, I do prefer to have it on, because I'm writing in the full screen mode so that I can do this, and I didn't have a problem like this. But yeah, it's nice to actually have that option. So that's the overview of the notebook functionality and what you can do and how it actually works. And I think that it's very, very impressive. It's centralized and it's focused on a note-taking experience, and not just to make it flashy, fancy or something, but actually to make it perfectly usable. And this is something that I really, really appreciate about the platform. As a streamlined note-taking experience, I think this is probably my favorite UI experience in how they approach it. So if you're just looking for pure quick note-taking experience combined with the title functionality, the quick access and all that kind of stuff, with a nice writing experience with a great pen and the awesome lasso tools and even the layers and all that kind of stuff. Sure, it may not be the best drawing kind of tool, and the pens are not fancy, but you know what? They're very functional and they're super finely tuned. So this is a tool type of note-taking approach, which I really, really appreciate and I really, really like. Right, so now let's focus on the reader side of things and check out the documents. So first of all, just so you know, it's very easy to upload files, and we're going to cover that in the storage section. But yes, you can just simply plug in the device. It shows up as a USB drive, and you can transfer files directly onto it, or you can use the supporting Supernote partner app and all that kind of stuff, and it all kind of works. All of it will be covered in a separate section. Here we're just gonna focus on the reader functionality and the performance itself. So let's first test out a regular type of a document that has a couple of images and some text. As you can see, this is the image that I was showing when I was talking about the screen quality, image quality and stuff like that. However, one of the main things that you will have as an issue, and that's like general kind of thing for any kind of 7.8 inch reader device, is that for ebooks, as reading books, it works great, that's fine. However, when you go into technical documents or documents, PDFs of some sort, it will largely depend on the document itself, how it was formatted. And as you can see, this is very, very small type of text here. So thankfully, we do have some options. And yeah, before I go into formatting options and all that kind of stuff, I just want to say that marking the documents, you have pretty much all of the tools are here except for the layers. So you don't have layers in the document itself, but everything else is there. And yes, if you write something, the lasso tool will work, but it also has just the copy paste, so no titling or anything like that, simply because you're now in a document mode, but everything else is pretty much the same. The same thing applies here as well. You can go to full screen or back from full screen, and you can enable disable touch. And yeah, navigation can be done using the arrows, or you can jump directly to a page that you want. So very similar navigation experience as on a notebook, which is a really good thing. You can swipe the pages, or you can tap the pages on the side, left side and right side to actually go forward or back as you would kind of expect. However, one thing that I noticed is that the taps themselves, well, they're working perfectly fine now. It kind of like takes them a little bit to start working. It's really weird. Sometimes it even happens that I can't really get it to swipe at all, but I first kind of rev it up by swiping once, and once it's swiped for the first time, like flip the page, then the tapping for flipping pages works fine. The middle tap doesn't really do anything. It's like depending on where on the middle you are, you will flip a page forward or back. The option is always on the 3 dots upstairs there in the upper menu. So you can do a search for the document, and let's do a word search. Let's say Mars. Not Mard, but Mars, yes. And then we go a search, and you can see that it's very quick and very responsive, and this works. So now he's still counting, he's still searching, and he's giving me more and more results. And then I can just flip pages, and then gonna see what it is that I'm looking for. And maybe if this is what I'm looking for, while he's still counting and searching, I'm allowed to perform operations and find what it is that I'm looking for. And then when I tap it, he will go to the page that I want to go to. Then we have the table of contents, and I really love to see that they took the suggestion that I had previously on an A6, and in previous versions you had just the bookmark contents. This document doesn't have the table of contents, but this is now where you can actually have the bookmarks and the side notes. So in the options here, you also have the add bookmark, and then when I bookmark it, it's bookmarked. The only thing is that it's not marked anyway to actually know if I bookmarked my page or not. So that's something that would have been nice to actually see, like a more traditional kind of thing. I get it because of this decision was made to make it work like that, but it would be good to have some kind of an indication if the page that I'm currently at is bookmarked or not. Of course, you can always go to the menu and see it, but I'm more thinking like when you're in the full page mode, maybe like a bold line on the top, I don't know, like something simply when you're in full screen mode to know if it has been bookmarked or not. And to my knowledge, I don't know if there is a gesture that I can use to simply bookmark. So as far as I know, I always have to go into the menu and add a bookmark or cancel the bookmark. Now, additionally, what I wanted to show before I actually go forward is maybe here I can I don't want that. I really don't want that. I want my pen. So I can add my notes, right? If you want to highlight or basically mark the text, what you do is you open up the brackets, and then, for example, here I close my bracket, and then it understands it and underlines it like this, and then it's marked as D. If I tap on that thing with my finger, I will enter the actual selection under highlight, and you can of course delete it or do things like that. And in the upper corner you have a selection or a tab between eraser and a pen, and you need that so that you can actually add your written notes about this selection here. So here are my notes, right? And then when I exit by pressing this button here, I return to the document, and you can see that it is now marked as an annotation. So that's the process of how you can actually mark up your document and select it and do all those things. Now, all of these things are really useful because when you go to the contents, it's not just table of contents, as I said, it's actually everything else. So if I have bookmarks, the bookmarks will show, and then you can tap on them and you can manage them, you can delete them and all that kind of stuff. And also the side notes, as I mentioned, you can have the side notes that I added. The only thing that I'm kind of missing is that we don't have these annotations. They are not contained in here, and it would make perfect sense that they were added there. You can access them by going here to the side menu and going into the digest, and then the digest will actually show where these are. So I think that's the only thing that's currently missing from the content content manager, or whatever you want it to be, is that I don't have the option to find the highlights, and I always mark my documents with the highlights like that. So that's something that kind of would make sense that it's kind of added here, document digest, if they want to call it like that. Everything that made sense that was actually suggested, they would take a suggestion, work on it, improve it, and then implement it. So that's one of the reasons why this platform is so strong and so good at the moment. We can also do a screenshot. So you can take a screenshot of the document itself, and it's just a full screen screenshot. So there's nothing, you can't really take a screenshot section or anything like that, and it's automatically saved to the screenshot folder. Then you can export the marked up document, and it will export it again into the export folder. Now, depending on the size of the document and how much stuff was actually done to it, it can take a little bit of time, but this is so now it's done. And if I were to actually go to files, export, here we go. We have the exported document is here. And the same thing goes with, actually, let's go to here, into the screenshot. And here is the screenshot that I took initially. We also have the control of contrast. So you can actually add more contrast to the overall document, but there is no separate control for images or for text. It's just an overall type of contrast control. And if you want to see, let's find a section with the image. So yeah, let's try and adjust the contrast so you can see how it changes. There is fine contrast control, and it's a little bit laggy. It just takes a little bit of time to kind of get used to it, but yeah, it can go to super extreme. So for me, I wish that the balance would be that we could go into negative, so to speak, to brighten it up a little bit more, because for my taste, while the blacks are really black and awesome, it's a little bit too dark in some cases and in some documents. And of course, like with the notes, we have the add quick access. And again, that's going to add it to the quick access here, so that you can have not only the document, but the page itself. It's just jumping directly into the document and into the page immediately. Very, very handy. And then finally, we have the formatting option, which is basically trimming. And for PDFs, there's no reflow. There's absolutely nothing you can do. There's just like, this is all you can do, is basically try and shape it up a little bit more. And once you actually do, then it kind of stays like that. So I can just confirm it, and it is bigger, so that's good. The only thing is that depending on the document, you could get a little bit of left and right. There could be some more issues here and there. So the formatting is fairly basic as far as the PDFs go, but it does work. So no, I don't have, or I don't know that I can do zoom or a basically pinch and zoom of any kind, and I can't find a dedicated zoom function. The only thing that I can find is the trimming function itself. And how does it work when you actually make it smaller than the screen itself? So let's say something like this. Yeah, it can zoom in, but the thing is that then it simply flips between pages. It doesn't scroll through the contents of the page. It's simply flipping through the document at this position, at this zoom style. So fairly rudimentary, nothing terribly exciting. And you can of course click on adjust, and it will kind of adjust itself to there. So yeah, it's very, very basic and very rudimentary. It's something that can be improved, and I think that it could improve the overall experience a little bit more. And I think that on a smaller format like a 7.8, this is something that would be very, very beneficial. So as you can see, I can most definitely zoom in and have something that was very, very small. Now it's perfectly readable and kind of usable. Again, depending on the document, it might shift left and right, but you can get something to work. However, you're limited to fitting the entire page on the screen, and that's it. There's no navigation options or anything like that. You just can zoom in or zoom out. So it's the best way to think about it is that the trimming is kind of like a zoom level. So one other thing that's really cool, I think, for the digest and annotation menus is that once I actually go into the digest menu and select this one, if I had more of these, I could actually just select one or more, and then you have an option to export these, which is something that I actually use quite a bit. Once you export it, it's gonna export, confirm, and when you go into your files, again, everything is found on export. So if I export it, then I'll just see it. It's a PDF of pages, and you have both your digest and the notes for the annotations themselves. So super useful if you want to send notes that you had about a document or something like that. Very cool to have. One thing that I find odd is that on the old A6, you had the option in the documents to actually simply draw a horizontal line that would take you into this split screen view where you can write a note that was associated with the document, and then you can flip them and all that kind of stuff, and yeah, do that. So that was something that I actually quite liked, but currently it's not something that we can do on the A6X. I'm fairly certain that that has to do with the fact that A6X is running on Android underneath, and that the programming involved and development involved in actually developing this is far more substantial than what they had. So it's not just a simple copy-paste kind of thing. So it would be interesting actually to see if this option returns, or is it reintroduced in some other way, but it's something that I kind of found very useful on the old platform. So I do hope that at some point in time it does get to return to the A6X as well. A6X also handles EPUBs, so it's a little bit different when dealing with EPUBs. The main thing is that you have better formatting options. So let's say that I get to, I don't know, let's say page 65, then we go to page 65, there we go, and now you have the same drawing options, exactly the same as before. The only difference is that now you will have the formatting options. So you can have bookmark, contrast, quick access, contents, and the contents also show the same thing. And of course, because this document has a table of contents, that's actually how it works, which is kind of cool. I like this. And yeah, it just tells you where you're at as well, which is kind of nice because you can get lost when you're kind of checking things out. This little line just tells you where you're at the moment. And then of course you have bookmarks and side notes if you have them on the document itself. However, the thing that's more important is that you have the formatting options, and that's in the display settings, and here you can actually just kind of always flip back to the document default settings, or you can go to user-defined settings and you can choose, let's say, a different format, a larger font, and yeah, margins. I guess I want to have tight margins and wide, very wide margins and tight row spacing, and then you press save. And yeah, this is a little bit different. So it takes a little bit of time to actually do this, which was not the case on the A6. Again, we have this kind of difference between the platforms, how the A6X works within Android underneath it, and how the A6 works, for example, here. So let's try and do the same comparison on the same document. All right, so we have the same document opened on A6 and A6X, and even though it's the exact same file, the default settings are a little bit different. So you can see that we have like, we're on a different page, and it's like 109 pages out of 102, and some small differences between these things, but essentially it is the same exact format. So we can actually go into the formatting settings on both of them, and I'm gonna go to here and let's just change it to Simpson on both of them, and I'm gonna use slightly larger type of a format, or yeah, let's just do this, and row spacing here and really wide margins. And then I'm gonna press save on both of them at the same time just to see something. And actually, yeah, A6X, even though A6 is actually faster as far as reformatting of the document goes. However, as you can see, the old platform had quite a few issues. I mean, this is like the widest of the margins that I can get. These are the widest margins that I can get on A6X. So definitely I get better results on the A6X, but it is a little bit slower as far as reformatting of an EPUB goes, at least at the moment. Other than that, everything else works the same, exactly the same as in PDF documents, including the brackets. So I can use this as a digest. That's what the D is for. Then I can tap it, and then if I tap on the selection, add my notes. And yeah, when I go back, now it's an annotation, and in the same way as it was for the documents in the digest section, you will now have it, if I exit this one, now we have the digest menu for this document as well. And if you go in, you have the same options here, and then you can do the same thing. Long press, select once, export or delete, and all that kind of stuff. So pretty much exactly the same type of functionality as the PDF. The only thing is that, of course, the formatting is different because it's an EPUB format. So as a reader, I think it's a mixed bag like A6 was. First of all, the main problem is that when you have this smaller format as 7.8 inches, you have to have really powerful and flexible reformatting tools, especially for PDFs. For EPUBs, it works, and that's fine. That's never going to be a problem. So if you're just planning on reading EPUB books and things like that, and then it works great, and it's going to be more than fine. So, and it's going to be a very nice experience as well if you don't need a front light. However, for PDF documents, scientific documents, technical documents, and all that kind of stuff, I think that the formatting options are too limited at the moment. And also, it would be nice to have a bit more of the contrast control depending on what type of document you have. So it's very, very usable in most situations, and it's good plus to very good. But it would need a little bit better formatting options for PDFs to actually get it into the excellent category.